Hello, my name is Cordereo Bentley. I am interviewing Mr. Harvey Day at 199 North Main Street. Today's date is April 5th, 2011, and the time is 10:40 a.m. How you doing today, Mr. Day?
Fine, sir.
That's good.
Thank you.
So, were you born in Mansfield?
I got a saying I like to say when I'm asked, born, bred, and fed. Mansfield, Ohio.
Okay. So around the time, what time did your family settle here?
Well, I really not, I know my grandmother, my mother came from North Carolina, I think, but I didn't go in depth in that. All I know is we was here and raised here, and I just growed up here in this area.
So you said you did have brothers and sisters?
I have two sisters was born here, and they went on to move to Chicago. I did have one sister that was a state rep in Chicago for 20 years, and a couple of years ago she died. My older sister is in Chicago, and all her family and all my other sister's family. I am the only one here. My mother died, my father died, grandmother died, but that's about it for me.
So what was life like in your family growing up?
Beautiful. It was, I can say that from my point of view, what the children are missing out on today is family, discipline. And there was no hardship as far as we knew. We didn't know nothing about hardship, hard times. And what we done, we did. We tried to get an education, and it was there for the offering, and you had to want it to get it. And we played here among the people. And to me, I will say this, and I mean this from the deepest part of my heart. At the years that I've got grown here, there was no prejudice that we knew of. But as I got older, and now, Richland County is one of the most prejudiced communities in the state of Ohio. And that is the way I feel. And I've been like this for years. Maybe I didn't speak it, but I learned more from still being in this community. And I've seen a lot of people come here that migrated here, and they're down on the community. This community itself is a beautiful community. It's what you bring to the community, not what you think you can get from it. You got to put something in it to get it. And if you don't bring anything to the house stays empty. There's no money here now. This place was plentiful at one time. There was jobs. You could leave anywhere from one place, go next door and get a job. This is an ideal magnitude. I have some good friends, musicians, and have come through here, which I have met. And a very good friend of mine told me once, across the street from here was a Blue Note. At one time, it was the most classiest club, finest club in the state of Ohio. And Rusty Bryant, he came through here with Nancy Wilson and a few other well-known artists. And Rusty used to love to come here, and he'd say, Harvey, this is a jump-off center of Ohio. It's way before they said the heart of Ohio, the center of it. This is a spot. It's down now, but we're gonna try to put it back together. I was born and raised here, what they call the Flats. And it was a place to be that I liked to come into, and I couldn't wait to get grown. I mean, I've done things here. I met a lot of people here, public people, entertainers. As I said, I met, when I got grown, through my sister, Lou Jones, moved to Chicago, Illinois. She was a state rep for 20 years. She introduced me to a lot of prominent people. And I met them, and they went on to better things in Chicago, which I can say I met them. I met Obama, Bobby Rush. I met, took Obama's seat. I met him. And these people here, I tell them, I'm not from Illinois, I'm from Ohio. We know you're from Mansfield. So they know there. Mansfield was a place to be reckoned with. But we got the people went in office here, and they wanted to tear up the bottom, which we call the flats. And they really destroyed it. They ran all the big cities out, big jobs out of town, because they didn't want to give up nothing to help and build the city and keep the jobs here and keep them coming here. And then now we have what we have. And it's all here, what I have.
So where did your parents work?
My mother worked at the Westinghouse. Maybe before that, she worked at Empire, which is now Empire Steel Mill. My dad worked at Empire Steel Mill. My dad worked in the street, worked for some of the people in the streets, but he construction and various other jobs. And my mother worked at a Leland Hotel. My grandmother done housework for some of the prominent citizens, like the Blacks, Thompsons, owners of Mansfield Tire in Ohio Brass. She done house cleaning.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Old Westfield Street School, Bushnell School, John Simpson, senior high.
Okay, around what year was that?
I was born in '35. Well, I went to Old Westfield Street School up on the corner of Miller and 5th Street. Then I went to Bowman Street, which is where the New Hope Industrial is now, on 4th Street. That was Bushnell School. And then I graduated and went to Simpson. From Simpson, I went to 1 year at senior high.
Are there any teachers that you remember especially well?
Yes, I remember my homeroom teacher, and I can't remember her name, but my math teacher. I remember Miss Craig, Lamont Durr, the music director in the system. Miss Robinson was an English teacher and a science teacher, and mechanical drawing was, I forget his name. There was two of them in wood shop and mechanical drawing at the Simpson that I remember. And my coach, I remember him in football. And I definitely remember Lamont Durr, musical director. They had put a lot of thoughts in my mind that I knew nothing of, being as young as I was at the time, that I do think about today, and I still think about it. And I try to instill this in all the kids. What you do and don't do go with you down the line. You've got to remember this. And it's nobody's fault if you don't get an education, but yours.
So you say you play football. Did you play any other sports?
No, I played a little league baseball, but football was my sport. And I didn't do anything else.
What year did you graduate from high school?
I didn't graduate. Which you wait. In probably around 53, I quit in 1953, something like that. And I moved from here to Chicago and stayed up there a year. And come back here, got a job, and then eventually I moved up here again in about 58, 68, and I couldn't stay no more than a year because I'm not a big city person. I like the community here because I like to walk, visual, go out, look around. I'm always walking, used to when I was younger, and I still do, and I walk all over the city.
So, what was your first job?
I worked over the depot, over in Shelby, Ohio for about 9 months or something. And then I done different other jobs. They used to come around in trucks, semi-trucks. Anybody wants some day work, I work for a day, get a few dollars. And I just was a loafer, and till one day I got tired. I went uptown and I asked old man Goldsmith at Goldsmith's Haberdasher for men, do you know anybody at steel mill? I walked back down to the pool room here, and before I got down the bottom of the hill, he had called me and said, go to steel mill and ask for Olin Fighter. And I went out there, and he gave me a job, and I worked there 9.5 years.
Mm. So going back to depots, what was depots?
It was a depot over to Shelby, Ohio,
Mm.
and it was military, where they done surplus clothes and shipped to military bases and all that.
So you said you liked the community a lot. What was the neighborhood like back then?
Fun.
Fun.
Fun people. You didn't meet no strangers from down here to up on the south side and on the north end. But this here right here was I basically growed up here. This area here that I'm now sitting in, the location was a playground with the Friendly House down the street. The Y was up on Park Avenue. Salvation Army, still location it is in now. We had the movie theaters we went to. A lot of people say the prejudice that really was here, as far as we was raised, there wasn't any. Was no prejudice here in this community. Maybe you thought it was, but it wasn't. It was what you got out of it that you took and ran with it. So you hear, we as kids, we was raised together. We go to each other's house. Where we felt like we didn't belong or wasn't welcome, we did not go. There was, and this is me. There was no prejudice to me.
So what were the stores and restaurants in the neighborhood?
Chris's Cafe was right down the street here. We had the Spaghetti House, Boston Spaghetti House. Spit Larry's store was down the corner on Diamond Street. Filling station, I forget the name of it now, was across from Spit Larry's. We had, Main Street was loaded with different bars, establishments. Our auto dealership was down here. Bisman building is still there. We had Central Fruit was up on 5th in Main. The red and white was across the street, grocery store. Sam Pool Room was there. Just ideal location. We went is for Neisner's and Woodworth and Kresge's, was uptown, 5 and dime stores, Leland Hotel, which I did work there for a while. My mother worked there, my uncle worked at the Leland Hotel. We had the Southern Hotel, had the Ritz Theater, old Ritz Theater, was now up there where the lodge is a lodge right there in that spot today, right across 5th Street. Basically, it was just the ideal location. Everything generated from here. We had Erie Railroad, Erie Lackawanna. I forget what they named the railroads. They had rails going east and west, north and south, which turned out to be Penn Central. And you could catch it right downtown, right down the street. And there's a lot of things happening. People got off here and there. And like I said, the Greystone used to be up where the Academy is now. That was the old Greystone. Bing's Furniture Store was in there. I Shine Shoes up there across the street from there. We had clothing stores, adjutant to going up Main Street for men and women, and the people would come from all over the city, down in uptown. Well, all that seemed to leave when they built the malls. Left from uptown, uptown just dwindled away and died. And well, I guess they done that in a lot of areas, but it happened here, and it just started dying off. And then when they decided, Lady Reed decided she wanted to get the flats cleaned up, she turned down a lot of industrials because she wanted to do another thing here. She made her stamp. But we had mayors, Limley, Scott, and a few other prominent mayors that was here, had a sense of direction, and they kept downtown like downtown was. And then when Lydia Reed, I don't know why, changed the directions, and everything went out in Ontario.
So, how is it different today? Is that how it's different?
Yes, yes, because you took something away from the people. And years ago, when I was growing up, which I found, I don't know if it's really true, but they stated the reformatory, when it was built out there, it created a lot of jobs. Well, someone said, well, the reason the reformatory was built because it would put the city on the map. They had a choice between a university or a reformatory. That's all. And they chose a reformatory. Well, when I was down in this area here, when I was raised, there was a trolley that went from uptown down to the railroad tracks, up to here, turned around, went back up the hill, was a trolley. Then the trolley left. I do remember vividly when I was young, on the trolley on the track. Then we went to the buses. The buses went all over town. Then when they went out, it just, everything started dwindling away. Because you had the buses going to the steel mill and the factories like Gorman Rupp. It was a small and upcoming factory. Was started by the locals. Steel mill, I've heard from some people that when the train would stop on the track behind the steel mill, you had hobos would get off, and the guy would, that worked the steel mill, you want a job, right onto the steel mill. This is how a lot of people ended up here. And I heard this from people that lived on the north end and worked out there at the steel mill.
So what was life like for African Americans in Mansfield in the 1940s and 50s?
It was a hotbed, not for African Americans only, but for all athletes. It was a hotbed. You go somewhere and the first thing to say, yeah, I know Mansfield, that's Mansfield Tigers, ain't it? Red and white colors. And it was very, I mean, they wasn't going to school afterwards, but it was a hotbed of athletes that came from here and went on. Maybe they didn't want to go further, maybe they didn't want to, maybe they wasn't able. But it was a hotbed of athletes. I know one fellow, friend of mine, he was a few years ahead of me, Ken McCallie. He went to Navy. Friend of mine, he went to school, he had a trial with the Browns. A great friend of mine I played football with, Wilmer Fowler, went to Northwestern. He left Northwestern, he played in the AFL for Boston. For other friends, Willie Mack they was good athletes. We got good friends. We had some friends joined the service, went to California, got in professions and other things, just people would come here, entertainers. They would stay friends of mine, the Globetrotters, when they come to town, they like to stay over for a while. Big time entertainers would come, they just would spend a day or two here. And sometime they would, might go to Cleveland. Some of the guys from the Cleveland Browns would come down to the old Blue Note on Monday nights, Blue Mondays. Wilmer had a trial with Wilmer Fowler with the Browns. They come down, I'd go up here for baseball games. I mean, it was just a hop away from where you could go, and it showed what you can get. It offered a lot if you want it. And I tell anybody today, young students, they don't owe you nothing. It's what you want. You can only go out and earn that right. But you, as a student, have to go and earn that right, because there's nothing that's promised to you but to go to school, get your education, and that's it. Now, wherever you go after that, it's up to you. I'm blessed. I am blessed to be here. Like I said, I was born, bred, and fed. Mansfield don't owe me nothing. I earned the right to live here, be what I wanted to be, which I should have been more. I'm not, but I'm glad I am from here. I am from here.
So how did racial bias affect you? Did it affect you?
Yes. Yes, my first job I got fired from, it was a racial thing. And I can say this, I earned the right for the job I got. But as a black man, I moved too fast at one time on that job. And other people had worked at this type of job, but they had more time and seniority, so they went back to their job in the job that they was in. I was determined. I liked where I was at. I got mixed up. I got picked on, and I fought and stood up for what I did. And I got sit on. And they picked a man to put on me. And me and him had a sort of a vocal confrontation. And he worked for the company, which was a steel mill. I got fired, he didn't. And the union fought as hard as they could. The president of the union fought. I got fired, he didn't. Yes, I'm bitter, but I can't let that live my life. Do I have hatred? Yes, we all do. Black and white, we got hatred there within ourselves, but you got to learn to deal with it, because it's not going to change nowhere in the country. It's not going to change. When JFK went in, he said, ask not what your country can do for you. What can you do for your country? This is the same thing in this community. Ask not what the community can do for you. What can you do for this community? What have you done for this community? I hear a lot of people talk, Mansfield ain't this, Mansfield ain't that. I was born and raised here. I didn't migrate. So if you didn't like it, you had an option, leave. But a lot of people came here from the service. They got good jobs, they stayed here. Evidently they liked it. I had chances, I had choices. I chose to stay here. After my mother moved from here, and moved to Chicago, after my dad died, I had children here. I love Mansfield. Mansfield is home, only one I ever know, and I love it. And any of you don't, it's on you, not me.
So how did the civil rights movement affect you?
I know nothing about civil rights.
Like the 60s, like
It wasn't here.
it wasn't here?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, if you want a job, you go get a job. You may not be able to get the job you wanted or move. We didn't have no problems going where we wanted to go. Your money took you where you was. Your brain took you where you was. your demeanor took you where you wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't, as far as like I said, this is the most prejudiced county in the state of Ohio, to me. But you can beat that by doing and living like you should live instead of demanding. I cannot demand nothing from you. I can ask you. And if it's my time, I'll get it. But I got to have a demeanor, a way to go to get it. You can't go in there, you can't demand, you can't fight, you can't argue, you can't do nothing. The biggest thing going on here in the wrong system I see is not only here in the United States, it's drugs. Who can stop that? The government. You can send your child in another direction. A lot of people do not stand up for their children. It's like I said, I'm sorry I come in late. I was at the high school today with my daughter, with her son, my grandson. A lot of people don't do this, but they downgrade the system. It's not system. This town right now don't have no money, no funds. We're doing the best we can. They want to blame it on the system. What the system offer you for is what the next level let them, which is Columbus. They can offer you something, you got to get in there and fight for it. You got to want it. The government itself starts where? Uptown in the mayor's office. From the mayor's office, it goes to the county. From the county, it goes to the state level. From the state level, it goes to the United States, the government, the major government. But none of it, if you don't have no income in your congregation, there's nothing here. But we have to work and stride forward as a person to help management of the city, not download them, don't downgrade them. You don't have who you want in office, the key to it, did you vote? I had a friend told me last week, I don't vote. Why? But he want to complain about what's going on in the city, but you don't vote. You don't have that right. You took that right from yourself. But if I vote for what I want and who I want, I don't like it, I did vote. And right now we're getting to be in an election, and everybody needs to vote. You don't have to get into it, but you need an agenda to vote for and against. And that's how you can bring the community back. And I think the North End is doing this the best way they can. We're helping down here, which there isn't nothing here in this end of town, but memories, and I got a lot of. I grew up Main Street, 6th, 5th, Adam, Friendly House, which was right down the street. I graduated kindergarten from the Friendly House. I left there. I went to West Fifth Street School, Bushman School, Simpson, Senior High, and I got in my head, teacher, what can a teacher teach me? Nothing. What did I do? And this is to the young people, if you're listening, this is to them. I quit because I didn't think I could learn anymore. But I'm learning today. I'm learning how to put something out here to the young people. I'm old, and I hope to get older. But I'm not going to tell you about the roots here. The roots was here. What you see is what you see. Taking you back there is just like they're doing in the southern states. They're giving you roots when they was picking cotton. My first time I seen cotton, some gentleman bought a ball of cotton. I said, what? This is cotton? That's my first stop at cotton. I never went south. Like I said, I was born here. I'm a northern. I'm glad, but I'm also glad of my heritage, because some of them come from the South. My dad, yeah, well, what he was, what my great-grandfather was, I got an inkling, but they say he was a part Cherokee. My mother come, I guess, out of North Carolina. That's all I know. But I am what I am. I'm a proud person to be from Mansfield, Ohio. I cannot let nobody break my roots, because this is mine. What I laid, I didn't have to, but I put roots here. I love it. I'm here for one reason. Maybe I should have talked about what I had growing up. I had family. If they seen me in the street and knew my family, boy, I'm gonna tell your mama on you. Boy, I'm gonna tell your daddy on you. My church is down the street. I got baptized at 8 at Mount Calvary Baptist Church. I'm still there. May not regular, but I had a minister say one day, Reverend Johnson, people change churches for different reasons. Somebody might have a hat on, some lady. Somebody may be talking in church. Somebody may be walking. But wherever you go, and this is always in life, if you leave a church, you will find something wrong with that church. So look into your heart. It's not the church, it's you. Look into your mind. Is something wrong with Mansfield? Ain't nothing wrong with Mansfield. It's you. If you born and raised here, you want to go to Columbus, go ahead. Capital of Ohio. They living and dying there. If you want to go to Chicago, they dying there. Go to Cleveland, they die there. But only thing different with them cities, they generate more people, there's more jobs. You got to do the same thing. You got to go out and look for it. You can't walk around and say ain't no jobs. There's jobs. You got to want them. You got to strive for them. Go get them. No is no today. Tomorrow is no again. Get tired of looking at me? You got to show that you can do the work that is offering you. You can't go in there, come from nowhere, say, well, no, I don't have no education. You can't fill out an application. Life is here. City of Mansfield for whoever wants it. The economy have changed. The city have changed. You went from, my dad used to use a pick, shovel, and a wheelbarrow. They don't have them no more. Now they got computers in a backhoe. They got a computer in the school. They got a computer in the system. You can fill out an application on a computer. But the young people now today, pull your pants up, gentlemen. My mama, my daddy, my friends, the older people that raised me said the two best things in life for you: comb your hair, keep it neat, keep your shoes, your clothes clean, and your shoes shine. As a man, you earn respect by giving respect. You can't get it by saying you gotta respect me. No, I don't have to respect anybody but myself. And if I don't show respect, I can't get respect. You can't ask for it. You can't demand it. I have a lot of people that respect me and I respect them. You earn that right. It's a right. It's not a privilege. It's a right. And where does it take you? Anywhere you want to go. And wherever you don't want to go. Penitentiary is meant for people. Dog pound is meant for dogs. Hospital is meant for the sick. You got a choice where you want to go. What do you want to do with your life? It's not in sections. This, when I grew up, was a flats, north end. South End, that's all we knew. But somewhere we all met at the middle. School. School. Italians, all people, Jews, was down in this area here. They say this, they say that, but they put on their shoes, their pants the same way I do. Some of them is entrepreneurs. They went out and tried to get something started from here. They started from laying bricks to working construction to build something, to have the right to own a factory or give you a job. Because why? They labored here. I know a lot of people that labored here and went on to build better things, better people. But we got animosity in our hearts. Now, I didn't come in and really, they want to talk about the North End. They want to talk about the South End. But this is what's in your heart. What are you asking for? What do you want this town to give you? And what do you want in this town? You want to be a lawyer? You want to be a judge? You want to be a nurse, doctor? I've seen a lot of people come here from Cleveland, Toledo, Akron, was professional people. They didn't come here to try to change nothing. They came here because they could get something and put something here, and they still here. Why? There's something here. But we're tearing it down. Why are we tearing it down? Why? Look at Uptown. What did they do with Uptown? They destroyed it. Then they destroyed the flats. What they go? Ontario. What they getting in Ontario? Go out there and look at the buildings. Closed. Jobs. Gone. What about Mansfield? Job. Gone. You paying taxes in Ontario? You shouldn't be paying taxes in Mansfield. You think you got it better out there? But now when you come back and live in Mansfield, you got to pay Ontario tax in Mansfield too. What do you want? I worked in Ontario. I paid tax to go to work. What kind of road did I ride on? They had holes in it, but Ontario didn't do nothing for us. All they wanted was the money. But the city of Mansfield, when I left Mansfield Tire in 1968, I wrote an ad in the Mansfield Journal, which is one of the most prejudiced papers in the area. Only paper, but it's very, very negative. It's a Republican paper. I say this, but I wrote a letter to the editor in 68 or 70, and I told them everything is moving to Ontario. Ontario used to be a suburbs of Mansfield. We are turning into the suburbs of Ontario. I wish I'd have kept that article. But what have I gained from Mansfield? A lot of friends. A lot of people. Friends. Some of them like me, some of them don't. But in order to like me, you gotta like me. In order to not like me, you gotta don't like yourself. Because I'm bringing to the plate what's on the table and what have been on the table all my life. Mansfield. I went through a lot of mayors, a lot of doctors, a lot of good people, and a lot of bad people. And it's like Clint Eastwood said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You decipher it. What part of it you don't like? And of the part you don't like, you ain't got to stay here. If it's ugly, go to Columbus, Cleveland, and then tell me what you got, a job? You got to ride 4 or 5 miles for a job? You gotta have a car. You gotta get up early in the morning, get on the bus. When I lived in Chicago, I got on 2 buses to go for an 8-hour job. That means I'm getting up 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to catch a bus, to get a transfer, to be on the job at 7 o'clock. I love here. I walk all over here, from one end of Mansfield to the other end. And I see a lot of things.
I heard you mention something about your church. Could you tell me more about your church?
Home. That is family. We went through, since that church alone, I think there's been no more, well, Reverend McQuarrie, Reverend Robertson, Reverend Bruford, Reverend Carter, Reverend Johnson. Right now we have our 8th, maybe our 9th, and I'm 75, since I've been there, of church, of reverence. Like I say, I learned in the church. Words used to be said, nobody told me you have to go to church. Church gave me somewhere to go Sunday morning, Sunday school, which I got away from. As a young man, I learned how to meet and greet. I learned how to participate in different things. I joined the choir. I was a member in the junior choir, and then I joined the senior choir, and I got away from it. I refereed, I umpired for 30 years of slow-pitch softball. That was an awakening. I loved it because I love sports. I met a lot of people that would come here to softball tournaments. The people here always would say, that's a Harvey Day rule. No, you don't know the rule book from A to Z. You don't know the rules 1 to 2. Harvey Day don't have no rules. I might have used it a little as authority when I first went into it, but I learned discipline, respect the players, how you come here. Right now, it's my field, it's my house. If you don't want to play, your best thing to do, leave. Because if I tell you to go, you may not be able to come back today. But the bottom line is, and you asked about church, this all lumps together. It's a learning system. There's people, when you join church, you join clubs, choir. He was right, Harvey, when you coming back? When you gonna join the choir? That made me feel good. Somebody asked about me. I had done something and touched somebody, not as a doctor and a lawyer, but as a person. I go out to softball diamond, get ready to walk off. Where you going? The same people was on me the game. Where you going? I said, I'm through. No, we need you back here. They came back to town, they remembered me. They remembered me. And that means a lot. People today might tell me, you ain't this, you ain't that. Yes, I am. I'm a man. Born here, I'm a man. And it's the greatest thing in the world that I tell anybody. I met Shirley Jones. He was a state representative with my sister in Chicago. I met Carol Mosley Braun in the House, state representative. And when my sister introduced me, they said, do you live here? I said, no. Where you live? I'm from Ohio, I live in Mansfield. Okay. What do you do? I said, nothing. Says, you're not working? I said, no. There ain't no jobs. She said, well, come up here. I said, ain't no jobs. She said, oh, you'll get a job. No. It was something in this city here, on the flats, the north end. in uptown. Something kept me here. I had other opportunities, which I did leave a couple times, got a job, come back.
Can you tell us about your fondest memories, like here in the North End or in Mansfield in general?
I think one of my fondest memories would be when I went to school. I went to junior high, and that's the same school my mother went to. And when we played football, after I got to senior high, we would walk down. We would always go on Thursday nights and have a pep rally. All the team members would go to the Ohio Theater. Show was over, we'd come down, the band be out. We marched down to that's when the park went around. And when they cut it through, I think it was one of the worst mistakes they ever made. To go in and out of Mansfield, you had to go around a circle. And when we walked down, the band would play, cheerleaders would be out, and all the football players would march down. That was a memory.
Now, was this before Arlen Field, or did you still?
No.
This Arlen Field was there at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
The old, yes, Arlen Field was built in '49.
Okay.
You have, 11,000 people generated in Arlen. It was one of the finest high school football stadiums in Mansfield, not in Mansfield, but in the state. They talk about Massillon you can have. When I walked out on the field in Massillon, that's when they had put the turf down there. In 1949, I sat in Massillon Stadium in the drizzle rain and watch Tommy Tucker, Don Klein, who else was in there? Well, then was Ben Corbett a quarterback? Holly Klein was a quarterback. I watched him beat Massillon in 1949 in the drizzling rain. That was a proud moment. And another thing, years ago, you used to go behind the stadium now and get on the train and go to Massillon to watch a football game.
So we say behind the stadium,
Yes,
Arlen
behind
Field.
Arlen Field.
There was a train station there, or
No, the train would come out. I guess it was from the B&O line or Avery Pence, and you get on the train. And I don't know if it was there or it was a B&O station over here off of Mulberry, and you take the train to Massillon.
Huh.
I never did, but the people did.
That's interesting.
And there's so many, you could, like I said, there's so many things here. You got memories of. Fondest memories? I can't say the fondest memory, but just to say I was born here. And sometimes you go places and they say, "Oh, you're from Mansfield." I said, "Yeah." "Oh, I know Mansfield, such and such a thing." And they could break off things. "Oh, yeah, I remember that." I remember my mother going up to I live right up the street here, right up through the alley here. My grandmother did. My mother went to the old Greystone Lodge to see Duke Ellington. I remember some other people used to come here. And I remember, off the top of my head, I can't remember, because that was when I was a little kid, and they was here.
That's amazing.
And I mean, it was, and when after I got grown, I started going to nightclubs, and I remember the old Ringside. Owner was Duke, and it was for a prominent white club. But they started bringing groups in upstairs, up by the bus station, and we would go up there, and they would play, and we go where we wanted to go.
So where was that located? You say it was called the Ringside?
The Ringside was up on 3rd and 3rd and Diamond.
Okay.
3rd and Diamond on the north side of northeast,
Okay.
next to the Greyhound bus station. Was also next to Ringside, across the street from Oldsmobile Garage.
And do you remember, you mentioned earlier Rusty Bryant and
Yes,
Nancy
that's where I
Wilson.
met him, and another fellow come out of Columbus was called Carl Sally. Nancy Wilson played when she came out of Columbus and first started. She played on the Blue Note
Wow.
with Rusty. I remember a couple other entertainers over there, organ players and such.
Can you
But
tell,
we-
do you remember anyone specifically that people, like a big name or?
Earl Hammond, I think he was over there once, an organ player. We had prominent, good good leaders here in instruments. They played here. Carl Sally. And he's a prominent alto player. Right off I came up. He nurtured here a while, lived here. Right now,
Grover Washington.
Grover Washington.
Okay,
I knew him well.
okay,
Him and I used to run together. He lived up on Adams Street
okay.
at, there was a rooming house up there. He used to play in a place over there. He played with Roy Hoagland, Carl T. Woodson, Clint Curry, Sam Dudley. They all had a little group. And he got drafted from here. And from here, he went on to the service. I don't think he ever came back here. Sammy Davis, I heard, was here once. He had a friend, Shirley Vest, married his music arranger. And they used to come in here. And I think he was here for graduation at Malabar with her niece when she graduated from there. And he was there. And a lot of prominent people really have came. They didn't stay long, but they, like I said, the Globetrotters were frequent here every year. And they met people here.
That's fantastic. Do you have, is there anything that we haven't asked you about that you would like to add? We don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, it's well spent.
Okay.
If anybody see this and get anything out of it, all this is from here.
Okay.
There's nothing that I can't. They told me talk about the north end, the south, and here. I can talk about Mansfield. The generation is here. The whole thing is here. You're not north, south, in the flats. This is the flats. There's been a lot alleged have happened here, but haven't happened. Because there was always a lot of things going on. People uptown get in trouble. The first thing they would say, oh, it happened in the flats. It happened in the flats. And this is, I remember policemen was walking beats. They knew each and everybody in this area by name. And they would stand out on the street talking to you.
Yeah.
Kind of Letitia. The chiefs, they would be down here before they was chief. I remember when Butler was chief. To me, he had his own agenda against us. And I mean this.
Can you tell us any story, any specific incidents that occurred that maybe?
No, just picky stuff. Little picky stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember when Bunk Harbor, hey, I remember him the first day on the beat. I remember Tom Brightwell was there for a period of time. Another fellow that right off time, to my tongue, I can't remember his name. This is in the air first. And, you know, Bunk was Bunk. But he was an icon. He was something to look up to. And he raised the level. Yeah, he fought a battle to get where he ended up at. But he fought it the right way. Now you talking about fighting, the barriers? Yeah, he had the barriers he had to go through.
Can you tell us anything? Do you know anything about the company line?
My sister's mother was on the company line. Farmatory Road, Wise Avenue. A lot of church deacons lived out there. The city dump was out there on Reformatory Road. I went out there and spent nights with my sister and them, with their grandmother. Lived on the hill at one of the highest points of the company line. And she lived on Reformatory Road. And I remember a lot of good people was out there. People today I think of, remember, and then other people. But me and my sister was raised between here and Adams Street and Fifth. Me and my sisters, my two sisters. But when they went to visit their their father's mother at the company line, being a younger person, I went too. I went for a specific reason, and I'm not gonna go on because it's personal. And, but I knew who I was, and we went out there, we walked to the company line. When you got to Longview, that's where it started. Longview was it was the end of the city.
And was that primarily an African American community? I mean, or was there?
Yes.
It was. Okay.
Yes.
That's what I understood.
Yeah, Barnes was there across the street from the company line, was like a swamp. In a little, where Gomer Rupp is now, that area was a swamp. 30 wasn't there. People out there had gardens, and they went to work. They worked in restaurants, hotels, day laborers, but did no buses go out there. You walk in and out. You lived as a kid, you went to Newman School, which was on Newman Street. When you went to junior high, you went to Appleseed, so that took the blacks to Appleseed.
Really, that's an interesting choice.
The blacks, yeah.
I would think they would.
Well, they was in a different township, I believe.
I see. Okay.
And they went to Appleseed,
Huh.
and we used to stand on the wall on Bowman Street, and someone would wave at us, and I never rode a yellow bus till I played football for Simpson. Never heard of riding a bus. We walked, 2nd Street walked, everybody walked. And them areas, but, I felt bad. Why they ride the bus? But that was a rival, Simpson and Appleseed. But when we get to senior high, we're together.
Interesting.
It was over there on Klein Avenue, and it was funny because I really didn't find out about Klein Avenue till I was grown. I didn't go in that area.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice to bus them from
And
all the way out
yeah.
there to Appleseed.
If you lived on the south side of 1st Street, you would go to Appleseed. You lived on the north side, you would go to Simpson. And this is it. But you gonna meet up at senior high.
Yeah. So this obviously way before Malabar, there was just
Oh,
the
Malabar
one.
was a joke.
Yeah.
That, to my point of view, it was a joke because it was put in there, you had some doctors, some lawyers, wanted to break up the system because they had kids, they didn't want to run around us, so they got together and petitioned and say, we need another school. We didn't need another school. Because then that's when you broke it up. They went, built Malabar. It was years after Malabar was there that I found out about Malabar. I didn't find out, but I had seen it, all right? They playing football, basketball, track. They're not winning anything. Senior high is still red and white. Our icon, red and white at senior high. You got a lot of people that graduated from senior high red and white. don't like to go with the colors, go there now. Colors should have went back to red and white. Anyway, they're not winning nothing in sports. They bust from Lily, Daisy, Harker, even off of Washington Avenue on 4th Street, where students can walk to school, bus them to Malabar. They senior high went downhill. And it's been problems out there ever since.
So when did that happen? When did, do you have a memory of when they started to do that? I mean,
Well, not specific year, but you quote, you done broke up the culture.
right.
Well, if you wanted that culture out there on that end of town, I don't like it now. But I mean, you should have built a bigger school, cause we was out there and we could have had it. And you still would have been Mansfield.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, just in general. I'm not sure how to phrase this, but sort of white flight. Did you see that in your neighborhood? Where, I mean, you mentioned the doctors, lawyers, families wanting to have their own kind of separate school.
That's me speaking. I believe that.
I
believe that. I was never told.
Sure.
I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And when they didn't get nothing and wasn't winning nothing, why are you gonna bus kids from a district to cross town that can walk where they're at?
Mm-hmm.
Why? To me, it don't make sense.
Yeah. Mr. Day, thank you so much
Yes.
for giving us your time.
And thank you for asking. And I know I didn't talk about what you really wanted, but I want to talk about Mansfield.
Oh, you did. It was
a lot of
great.
good stuff in there, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And